Hello, everyone. My name is Paula Camperman, and I'm the Outreach Program Manager of the Bennington County Solid Waste Alliance. I'll be talking to you today about managing a successful food scrap diversion program involving condo complexes and homeowner associations while adhering to guidelines of Vermont's recycling law. My co-host today is Michael Batcher, who is Program Manager of the Alliance as well as a Regional Planner for the Bennington County Regional Commission, and will be helping me answer questions at the end of the presentation. If you have a question, feel free to click on the Q&A or chat button at the bottom of your screen. All the materials and websites mentioned today will be included along with a recording of this webinar in a follow-up email you'll receive tomorrow. So let's get started. Many of you are hearing about the Alliance for the first time today, so I'll give you a little background. The Alliance was formed in 2015 to assist participating towns in reducing solid waste disposed in landfills by reducing the amount of waste generated, conserving resources, and promote recycling and reuse. The Alliance provides outreach and education to businesses, schools, residents to help achieve the Alliance's goals of reducing the amount of materials people in our service area send to the landfill while increasing the amount of material diverted from landfills for recycling. The Alliance is made up of 13 towns: Arlington, Bennington, Dorset, Glastonbury, Manchester, Pownell, Rupert, Sandgate, Searsburg, Shaftesbury, Stamford, Sunderland, and Woodford. The towns of Peru, Reedsboro, Londonderry, Landgrove, and Winhall, while in Bennington County, are not members of the Alliance. All of the businesses, residents, schools, and organizations within the Alliance can take advantage of our services. Services the Alliance provides include solid waste audits, where we visit your business and review your waste management practices and offer technical assistance in managing your solid waste. This could include review of your current recycling laws, provide sources to recycled items banned from the landfill, provide communication pieces about signing for your staff about recycling, and suggest ways to possibly lower your solid waste hauling costs. We host household hazardous waste collection events during warmer months of the year. This service is also available to small businesses if you pre-register with us, which can cost less than a dedicated pickup of household hazardous waste to your location. We provide source information for the disposal of banned items such as computers, electronics, fluorescent bulbs, and paint through special recycling programs, and most of this information is available on our website. We also provide community outreach through presentations to groups and the public about recycling, composting, and waste reduction. A good example of this is making a presentation to residents of an apartment or condominium complex about food scrap diversion and proper recycling. Nearly half of all the waste produced globally is either organic or biodegradable. When sent to a landfill and allowed to degrade anaerobically, that's without the presence of oxygen, methane is produced, which is 30 times more powerful than carbon dioxide at trapping heat. The increases in greenhouse gas emissions is responsible for our climate change. So when we reduce the amount of waste we generate, we reduce the amount or the need for additional landfill space while reducing our carbon footprint. Vermont's Universal Recycling Law adopted a food recovery hierarchy into law in 2012 to address attention to our use of uneaten food and help guide consumers into making the highest and best use of their food. The most preferred method being source reduction, followed by food for people, then animals, then composting. When we reduce our consumption of food and thereby reduce the amount of food scraps generated in the first place by shopping smarter and strategically planning meals with the foods we have on hand, less of our food goes to waste. When we do have leftover food, our first priority is to give it to the people first through food pantries and other organizations. When we have lower quality food waste, we share that with animals and other agricultural uses. Any leftover food at this point should be composted or used in anaerobic digestion. In 2014, Vermont began requiring large food scrap generators, like grocery stores, universities, and large hospitals, to divert their food scraps from landfills to certified facilities. As of July 1st, 2020, smaller generators, including residents, are now required to divert their food scraps. This requires all residents to adjust the ways in which food is disposed of, and as condo owners, implement a program for food scrap diversion that meets the needs of its residents while still complying with state laws. I'll spend the next few minutes outlining the details of those requirements. As we know, as of July 1st, 2020, food scraps cannot go into the trash in Vermont, including condos. Condos and HOAs are not required to hire or provide a food scrap management service for its residents, but they must keep food scraps separate from the trash. The first step is to assure that arrangements have been made for the removal of food scraps from all units, which can be done in a variety of ways. As you decide on which method of collection and disposal to use, consider that some residents don't drive or there may be insufficient space to manage scraps on site. Residents and associations have three options. First, they may hire a company to pick up food scraps. While haulers are not required by law to pick up food scraps from condo owners individually, they may offer food scrap collection as part of a trash and recycling service already provided in a central location. Especially in a multi-unit setting, it may make sense to manage trash, recycling, and food scraps together collectively for the hauler to pick up. Residents also have the option to collect food scraps individually or collectively for drop-off at a transfer station, farm, or community composting facility. The third option is to digest or compost in a backyard or common green space, which can be an easy diversion method if space is available and someone is willing to actively manage the bin or bins. When properly managed, composting produces a rich soil amendment containing vital nutrients that can be added to houseplants, gardens, and lawns while reducing soil erosion and protecting against drought, as it holds 20 times its weight in water. Backyard composting is a relatively inexpensive option, with residents or the HOA purchasing the building or building of the bin to collect the scraps. Using a solar digester, for those unfamiliar with the process, is a way for residents to place food scraps, including meat, bones, and pet waste, into the container partially submerged underground that may only need to be emptied every few years. When commercial haulers provide food scrap collection, they typically provide containers, either rolling carts similar to trash and recycling carts to store outside or within a shed or garage. When condo owners are coordinating individual pickups from residential units for drop-off at either central located collection point on site or at a transfer station, 2 to 5 gallon buckets with lids work well for each unit's food scraps. Now that I've explained the various options there are to food scrap diversion, I'm going to describe the ways to get your chosen food scrap collection system started. If you're already using a hauler to pick up your trash and recycling, check to see if they offer food scrap collection. If your decision to use this method is financially motivated, check to see if your costs will be higher with the added service. If an HOA has multiple units or generates a high volume of waste, you may be able to negotiate a more favorable fee structure with your hauler by adjusting the size of your trash collection containers, such as your dumpsters, or pickup schedule. It may also be worth conducting a cost comparison among different haulers. You may find expanding your current collection with your hauler to include food scraps is the easiest to implement for residents with the convenience of outweighing any increase in the hauling costs. When using a hauler, keep in mind managing odors and pests around food scraps prior to pickup requires adding carbons, or known as browns, such as sawdust, mulch, wood shavings, leaves, shredded newspaper, coffee grounds, and other organic material on top of the food scraps stored in the tote or bin. Commercial haulers may provide an additional tote containing wood pulp or other sawdust, which landlords and tenants can use to apply on top of food scraps. So you'll need to make sure you have enough space in your collection. You also need to make sure that there is enough sawdust or other browns added on top of the food scraps to keep your bin healthy in summer months, particularly to keep off maggots and flies. An addition of 2 to 6 inches of browns should be added on top, whereas in winter months, less would be added when there are fewer pests. Packing the sawdust down with a handheld garden tool will help control pests and maximize space in the bin between pickups. It's important for either the property manager or any resident involved in adding scraps to bins to understand this process to keep it running well. If you are dropping off food scraps at a transfer station, make sure residents or the staff are aware of the hours and the fees charged. Most haulers drop off locations accept all food scraps, including meat and bones, fats, oils, coffee grounds, and filters and spoiled food. It's important that residents understand what goes into bins or collection buckets is just organic matter. No produce sticky labels, wrappings, or plastic bags used to line a kitchen compost bin or transport scraps from the kitchen to a common area collection bin. Plastic bags do not break down during the composting process and must be sorted out. Most haulers only accept bags that are labeled BPI certified and compostable, but check with the hauler before implementing them in your program. On a side note, compostable bags should be used as a bucket liner and can be very expensive, particularly over a long period of time, and their quality can vary widely. A less expensive method may be to line a small bucket with newspaper and wash out the bucket once emptied into the larger collection tote. Hardware stores and online bulk wholesalers sell buckets with lids. Also, some restaurants, bakeries, grocery stores, and food manufacturers end up with extra buckets on hand that they give away for free. You can also check websites like FreeCycle or networks like Front Porch Forum, where they sometimes sell them. If the property has just a few residential units, composting food scraps in the backyard can be an easy solution if a resident or property manager is willing to actively manage the piles throughout the year. Compost bins can be made of a variety of materials, but plastic compost bins purchased at hardware stores or through the Alliance during warmer months at scheduled sales can be an economical and easy way to get started. Residents composting in the backyard should be reminded that leftover meat and bones should be placed in the trash rather than compost bins, as their composting system won't reach a temperature high enough to properly break down the animal material and can attract unwanted animals. The key to managing a successful composting system is understanding the techniques for proper breakdown to keep animals away and maintain healthy sanitary conditions on the property. The University of Vermont's Extension program has a master composting course online, and the state of Vermont has sources as well for successful composting. Solar digesters are also a good solution if you don't have a use for the finished compost and just want to break down the food scraps. A solar digester will break down all food scraps, including meat, bones, and animal waste. While a lot more expensive up front, it requires less looking after once the system is up than a composting system. In either case, it is important that you size your system to be sufficient to serve the number of units you have. Vermont has seen an increase in human-bear interactions, so it's important to take a few steps to discourage bears and to manage your compost so it doesn't attract animals. Take down bird feeders during non-winter months. Use 3 times as many browns as greens to minimize smell and to speed up the composting process. And regularly turn your compost pile so the materials break down more quickly. If bear activity persists, check with your neighbors to see if they have bird feeders up and other food sources attracting animals. More information about composting and resources to address animal issues can be found in a booklet entitled The Dirt on Compost, distributed by the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation. For any food scrap program to be successful, communication and understanding of the process is key. It's important to help residents understand that food scraps are and how they will be collected in the dwelling and brought to the central location area or backyard systems. Will the receptacle, such as a bucket with a lid to collect the food scraps in their kitchen, to later take to the collection bin, be used? Will residents be aware that the collection schedule, if they are all involved in taking collection bins or buckets to the curbside or central location to be picked up by your hauler? They need to know what is and is not allowed in the collection tote or compost bin or solar digester. The state of Vermont has downloadable bin signs you can laminate and post above bins, identifying proper sorting of food scraps, recycling, and trash, as well as instructions for setting up a composting system. Your hauler may also provide you signs for easy sorting of items. Larger facilities have noted success when they use a resident living within the complex to act as a guide and influencer, if you will, to instruct fellow residents on proper sorting and upkeep of the waste sorting area. If residents are contaminating the bins by putting items in the wrong place, send them gentle reminders about proper sorting within the system. It is important to put the whole process in perspective. When residents understand that most of what they are throwing away isn't trash, but a marketable commodity with a monetary value on items such as paper, aluminum, cardboard, glass, tin, plastic, and now food scraps, their behavior about sorting items and making sure items are clean and dry and uncontaminated may change. You'll notice your efforts of educating them are paying off when the bins are looking cleaner and smell less, and they've done their part to reduce their carbon footprint. Now, if they aren't really thinking about that, then at least they're likely to notice that it isn't smelling as much. The Alliance is available to host on site or virtual presentations about recycling and composting to help residents better understand the process, so your waste management program is a success. We can also perform waste audits at your location to address your needs about special recycling or other waste management concerns you may have. So, to recap, condo owners and HOAs have a variety of options to arrange for the removal of food scraps from rentals. The HOA can subscribe to a pickup service where available for members, such as a hauler, or ensure members bring food scraps to a drop off, farm, transfer station, or community composting facility. They can set up a backyard compost system or solar digester. Vermont law requires haulers to collect food scraps from commercial accounts and residential addresses of 4 or more units, but haulers may offer the service to addresses with fewer than 4 units. Most food haulers accept all food scraps, including meat, bones, fats, oils, coffee grounds, filters, and spoiled food. All scraps picked up by haulers or composted on site must be free of labels and bags. The exception is if a hauler permits bags that are BPI certified, compostable bags. Condo owners and HOAs should allow enough space for additional bins required to collect food scraps and store sawdust browns to put on top of the food scraps, as well as supply adequate signing and information about the waste management program in place. Residents composting on site may discard their meat and bones in the trash since composting bins do not reach temperatures high enough to ensure proper breakdown and to avoid attracting animals and pests. Residents using solar digesters may add meat, bones, and animal waste to their systems. Proper education to residents and signing will go a long way to a successful waste management system. Condo owners and HOAs should partner with a resident influencer to help educate and communicate to others about correct sorting when there is contamination to ensure the highest and best use of recycled materials. As an added point, not previously mentioned, we encourage larger properties, especially, to consider offering the separating of banned items from the trash, such as electronics or e-waste, be held separately and brought to the transfer station. It doesn't take a lot of time or space, but spares precious elements that can be recycled and potentially combustible components such as lithium batteries from being landfilled and known to start fires. These items can be taken to the transfer station and recycled in a safe manner. In addition, architectural paint still in liquid form that may be collecting on site can be dropped off for recycling at several area retailers in quantities of up to 5 gallons a day in its original container. Any paint that is hardened should be disposed of in the trash. Finally, we'd like to remind folks that household hazardous waste that includes things like chemicals, pesticides, paints, and mercury-containing items such as fluorescent bulbs, thermometers, thermostats, and alkaline and rechargeable batteries can be dropped off during our household hazardous waste collection events during warmer months of the year. Follow us on Facebook or see our ads in the Vermont News Guide for scheduled dates and locations. Thank you for taking time to view this presentation. I'll now answer any questions you may have.
Jean has her hand up. I don't know, are you able to unmute people?
I can see if I can get her hand. Hold on. Yes, Jean.
This is Jeannie Chismore at Manchester East Community Association. Quick question to start off. How many people are on the call? How many associations are participating today?
Anybody want to speak up? We have a small group here. I can allow you all to talk if you want. So one person left and the two others have kept their mics off. So
All right. Okay.
you may not get an answer to your query.
That's fine.
Okay.
I noticed at the beginning of the presentation that it said something about associations need to keep their to provide some kind of receptacle to keep trash or keep composting separate from the trash. Did I hear that right?
Well, how it works is the hauler can provide you a receptacle,
Yeah.
but if they don't, you have to give them a receptacle to put their food scraps in. If they aren't taking them to a location themselves, they being the residents, or like either to a compost bin, or if they decide individually to take their food scraps to a transfer station or a community composting facility.
Okay, I'm that's the first time that I heard that. Can you tell me where that's in the statute? Do you know which section addresses that?
Let's see. Well, what I've done is I've included all of the information of FAQs from the discussion today to an email you'll receive tomorrow that has that from the state. Let's see here.
It's a bit of a conundrum because haulers are required to provide service to apartments of 4 units and greater, but that does not include condominiums. But that doesn't mean the condominium association can't negotiate with a hauler. So you're not supposed to put food scraps in the trash, but it really is up to the association and the hauler whether they can work something out to get the stuff taken away.
Well, where we are is that we've been told that we actually need to build a shed to put the compost container in because of the bear problem and because we have a large elderly population and we're, a very small complex. So, we've been looking at different things and trying different things, and we've worked with Casella. But what I didn't know, and we've communicated, of course, a couple of times already, at least to the owners, to make everyone aware of what they need to do. And we're lucky that the transfer station is just right around the corner. But what I didn't know was that that we had to provide a container for composting, even if we weren't managing it. Because until we get a shed to put those bins in because of the problems that we've had, we don't have anything out there. I mean, getting the plastic bins from Casella is no problem. It's just there's no place to put it, and we don't have, we're trying to figure out how to be able to offer this that's safe and that a lot of our older population will be able to navigate. We also don't have a management company, so it's just all of us working together.
Well, what I think
That's
what might be best is to, off of this presentation, talk one-on-one to help come up with some solutions for you, because it sounds like it's pretty individualized here, what you've got that you're dealing with. And I'd love to spend more time at length to
I would
talk
love
about your
that.
situation.
Thank you
So,
so much. That's
oh,
really, thank you. I
certainly,
appreciate
you've
that.
given us your email address and your registration, so I'll reach out to you and we'll talk, because I think it'd be good to get more detail about what it is you're dealing with.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Are there other questions we can answer for folks?
I seem to have had a couple of people drop off. Can you see that, Paula? That,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we'll wrap up here.
oh no, that's a question.
Oh, I did not see a question. Sorry. I just saw that. Hold on.
Well, the question is, I do not have a mic, and I apologize, but my question is, how are they, I guess I mean the state, going to enforce this? Some clients, they communicate with their clients, but not everybody follows the rules. I guess my answer is it's unlikely that anyone is going to come to the condominium and fine you or throw you in jail or whatever. It is possible, though, that the hauler may refuse to take your trash if it's got too much food in it, because technically they're not supposed to be sending that to a landfill. So it wouldn't be so much enforcement. They just basically say, sorry, we're not taking your trash if you keep doing this. More than likely, it's just what we've mostly told people, just do the best you can, get as many people to participate as possible. If you can't get everybody to participate, then you can't. It's they're not supposed to be putting stuff in the trash, but you're not the police, and the police aren't going to enforce this. So you just have to do the best you can and hope behavior changes over time.
Yeah, I think to echo that, the state knows it's not suddenly a light switch where everyone's going to divert scraps automatically on July 1st. It takes a lot of education and rejiggering of a system on each property to figure out what works best with a lot of different things. And COVID certainly hasn't helped that as well. So everyone understands that it's going to take some time.
But participation has increased quite a bit. If the transfer stations were collecting food scraps before July 1st, and they might have had 1 or 2 containers, and now they've got 10. You know, they're getting, I've been to the transfer station and watched people bringing their stuff to the transfer station. So people are doing the best they can. And we sold an awful lot of compost bins and solar digesters this summer. People want to try, but it's just a matter of, you know, there's always going to be people who don't wear their seatbelt too. So.
Can I say something?
Certainly.
I was just, I think what's tricky too, though, about with condominium complexes, because it's common area, that to change the use for, you know, in order to be able to put outside compost bins, I'm talking about behind like individual units, that would be a change in use of the common ground. And then you get into things like that associations legally are required to, like, you know, have a vote go out to their membership, those kinds of things. So I don't know if you're already running into that, but that's something to, I guess that's not always the easiest option for an association, maybe for the really large ones that would have more space where they would be able to designate areas, but I think for smaller ones, it's difficult.
Of course, if I recall, you and I have talked before, you have an interesting situation where people actually bring their trash and recyclables to a central location. Is that right?
Yeah.
So this would just be another thing they've got to lug down the road.
Yes. The problem has been that, you know, we have roughly about 25 people who live here full time, no kids, mostly. We have a few couples, but mostly single, and almost half of them are over 80. certainly over we have some in our 90s. So it's a matter of trying to, it's like the nexus of having a container that people would be able to operate, and then also if they have to do shoveling, that we don't have a management company. The problem with bears, and I guess that's it. But Paula will talk about that.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Who mows
Michael,
the,
thank
who
you.
mows the grass?
What's that?
Who mows the lawn?
We have a landscaping contract
Okay.
to do that. Yeah, thank God, we don't have to do our own mowing.
All right. Well, Jean, you're the last attendee. Everyone has departed. So why don't we end the call and I'll follow up with you promptly, if that's all right with
Okay,
you.
great. Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate what both of you do. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Thanks for attending. We appreciate it.
Sure. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.